उमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So continuing with the instructions given by Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti with respect to the practice of devotional service. So here we see etaihi anyaihi. Anyaihi means other processes. For what purpose? Mano dushtam asat patham. Manaha dushtam. Dushtamana, or the wicked mind, contaminated mind, asat patham, which always goes towards unwanted things. What are the unwanted things? The objects of sense gratification in this material world. Actually, it is not wanted by the spirit soul. Actually, these objects will never give him satisfaction or happiness. But under illusion, under the influence of the Maya, the self or the Atma identifies with the gross and subtle body and starts thinking when the objects required for its gratification, gross or subtle, only then it will be happy. So this is how the influence of Maya works in this material world. So mano dushtam asat patham, always the mind goes towards the path of material sense gratification or sense enjoyment. So now here we see anyaischa pathivir. Here in the previous verses we see Kapila Muni describing process of yoga practice. He speaks about mauna, asana, sthairya, pranajaya, pratyahara, and previous to that ahimsa, satyam, asteyam, brahmacharyam, swadhyaya, many things, it goes on. So here Kapila Muni says anyaischa pathibhir. That means there are other processes also. This is not the only process, there are other processes also. Following any of these processes, what are we supposed to achieve? We are supposed to control the mind. Buddhya yunjita shanakair. Yunjita means must control. So here there is one process mentioned by Lord Kapila. There are many other processes also. So one of those processes we can take, and the goal is to fix the mind, to control the mind. So this is the goal. And here specifically it is said, buddhya yunjita, through intelligence or spiritual intelligence, we need to control the mind. Jita prano hi atandritaha. Jita pranaha means the life air being fixed. Jita pranaha. And then atandritaha. Tandra means being lazy, not very active. Atandritaha means being very alert. So, a yogi, he should control his life air. Through his intelligence, he should control his mind, and he should be fixed in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one thing we need to understand, recognize here is, like say, here one process we see how to control the mind. Many things are mentioned here. And the practices which we are following on a day-to-day basis in our organization, which Srila Prabhupada has given, we may not be following asana, pratyahara, mauna, and many other things. So Srila Prabhupada has wonderfully given us a specific process depending on the kind of people in this modern day world, depending on the circumstances, the kind of the technological gadgets we have, the objects of sense gratification what we have, and the lack of training, the lack of proper spiritual culture. Keeping all of these things in mind, Srila Prabhupada has given us a specific sadhana and service process through which we will also be able to achieve the same objective mentioned here by Lord Kapila. What is that? Buddhya yunjita shanakair jita prano hi atandritaha. To control the mind using intelligence and fixing it in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So let us try to understand this more through the verses from the Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna also asks this question about controlling the mind. Especially he asks in the 3rd chapter at the end about the contaminations of the mind, specifically desires, kama, esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhavaha. Krishna starts there. Lusty desires, desire for sense gratification in this material world. And there, at the end of the 3rd chapter, we can see how Krishna mentions the solution. The last 2 verses I'll read out. Indriyani parani ahur indriyebhyah param manaha manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. So here Krishna is telling about how the indriyas are there, senses, and above the senses the mind is there, above the mind the intelligence is there, and above the intelligence, superior to that, is the spirit soul. So the mind needs to be controlled through intelligence, The senses needs to be controlled through the mind. So this is how a system is set up. Ultimately, the spirit soul, he is transcendental to all of the material, senses, mind, intelligence, everything. So here I will read out from the purport of this verse given by Prabhupada. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. So Arjuna is asking about some problem, about the different contaminations. Now, here we see, if with intelligence we seek out the constitutional position of the soul. What is spirit soul? What is its relationship with the Supreme Lord? What is its relationship with the body, the material world wherein it lives now? If we are able to understand these things and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness activities, this solves the whole problem. All problems will be solved if through our intelligence, we apply our intelligence in understanding about the spirit soul and engage the mind in Krishna conscious activities. All the problems are solved. Then, a neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the objects of the senses. But aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind by the use of intelligence. Neophyte devotees in the beginning stage, of course we are all in the neophyte stage only, sadhaka. What recommendation is given? That consciously we be away from, aloof from objects of sense gratification. That's why a lot of rules and regulations are given to us. We need to eat in certain place. We eat only things offered to Lord Krishna, and like say devotees, we need, a lot of restrictions are there. Maybe like brahmacharis associating with women, and then so many things. All these rules and regulations are given so that like objects of sense gratification are kept at bay, at a distance, because the tendency is still there. So the objects needs to be kept away during maybe like the sadhaka stage. And then one has to strengthen the mind by the use of intelligence. So we need to use our intelligence and strengthen the mind. Just yesterday, one devotee came to me and was telling how that audio of soulful japa, putting that and chanting and all those practices which Prabhu had come and told. He started telling how this is like the mind is so restless, it tries to wander here and there. If we put this and along with this if we do japa, it is like putting a barricade to the mind, building a wall. The mind should not go here and there. It will tightly put the mind back into its track. Though it may go here and there, again it will bring back to its track. So what are we doing through all these exercises? We are applying our intelligence and trying to control the mind. And finally there, Srila Prabhupada says, but even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind and the senses also, still, unless it is strengthened by the association with Krishna in Krishna consciousness, there is every chance of falling down due to the agitated mind. Shri Krishna Balarama ki jai. See, all these techniques we may be using, use our intelligence and somehow try to control the mind. But unless there is touch of Krishna, you will not get the required strength. So that's what it is said here. Unless it is strengthened by the association with Krishna, in Krishna consciousness, there is every chance of falling down due to the agitation of mind. This is what exactly we are trying to do. Throughout the day, this is the instruction given by our spiritual master. We are engaging in varieties of activities somehow or the other to come in touch with Krishna. By hook or crook, yena kena prakarena manaha Krishne niveshayet. Somehow or the other, fix the mind on Krishna. Now, fixing the mind on Krishna means like our attention should be on Krishna. It may be chanting Krishna's holy name. It may be looking at the form of Lord Krishna. It may be hearing about his pastimes. It may be rendering services. Just like practically throughout the day, we engage in varieties of services. Srila Prabhupada says in one place, we have to render services. It should be done with giving attention, great attention to the details. We should apply our mind, intelligence, how to do it nicely, how to do it properly, because these things are being offered to Krishna. So, when our mind is engaged in all of these things, his name, Bhagavatam, services, all of these things, the mind becomes strengthened. Only through this we will be able to control the mind. Now, the last, maybe the verse after this, Krishna concludes that portion telling, Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhya atmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. This kamarupam durasadam, enemy known as lust, how can it be conquered? Evam buddhe param buddhva, understanding the spirit soul is superior to mind, intelligence, senses, everything. It is transcendental. By connecting the spirit soul with the Supreme Lord, with Krishna, then it will be strengthened. Through that strength only, we will be able to conquer over the lust or lusty desire. Kama rupam durasadam. So this is what just I told you previously. Somehow or the other, connecting with Krishna, applying our attention on Krishna through varieties of activities. Let me tell you one small story here. There was one spiritual master, one guru, and he had his many disciples, shishyas. This guru, along with all of his shishyas, his disciples, he was traveling to a distant place, and they passed through one village, a marketplace. They saw one man, he was holding the rope tied to one donkey or one animal. The animal, it was tied with a rope, and this man is holding that rope and forcefully taking that animal away. That animal, though it is reluctant, Many times we see like cows or whatever, they'll be reluctant to come. So we hold the rope and try to pull it the way to the direction where we want to go. Likewise, this man is pulling that rope and taking that animal away. So this guru and all of his disciples, they stopped there, and that guru told, tell me, who is bound? The man is bound by the animal, or the animal is bound by the man? So immediately all the disciples started telling, that animal is bound by the man. The man, he has tied that rope, and he is holding that rope, he is the master, and wherever he takes, the animal should go with him. He is the master, and that it's like a slave. Wherever he pulls it, the animal will go along with him. So the animal, the animal is bound by that man. So the man is not bound, but the animal is bound. He is pulling that animal. So this guru, he told one of his disciples to silently go and take a knife and cut off that rope. And without the knowledge of that, the person who is pulling that rope, this one of his disciples went and cut the rope. Immediately what happened? The animal started running in the opposite direction, and the man, looking at that, again he also started running behind the animal. Maybe the animal, he was pulling from left to right, and when the rope is cut off, immediately the animal went back, and the man, in the direction in which the animal went, he started running towards it to catch it again. So then the guru, he says, how? We may say, the man, he is the master, he is pulling that animal, wherever he wants he can take it. But actually, he is in that bounded condition. He wants that animal. He wants to keep it with him. He doesn't want to leave it go. So he is actually bound. Likewise, all the unwanted things, contaminations in our mind, it is the soul or we, through our conscious decision, we want to keep it with us. We want to enjoy in certain way. We want to gratify our senses in certain way. We still have a lot of desires in this material world to enjoy in certain specific ways. So, we are bound here. If this attachment is cut off, if the spirit soul, the man, he gives up this abominable kind of material enjoyment, he starts experiencing a higher taste with connecting with the Supreme Lord, then he is no longer bound to that animal. That animal means referring to all the contaminations, material desires, what we have in our mind. So we need to cut off from that. Till that time, this rope is there, we want that, we want to enjoy like this, we want to be happy like this, we want to possess this, take this, all these things, whatever these things are there, then it is actually through these things the spirit soul will be bound in this material world. This is how Maya works. So, to conclude, in the last portion of this purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the real yogi is the devotee because his mind is always concentrated on the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Therefore, Krishna consciousness topmost yoga system. This is exactly what Krishna says in the last ending of the 6th chapter. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhava bhajate yomam same yuktatamo mataha. The topmost yogi is he who fixes his mind on Krishna. Specifically here referring to pastimes of Krishna, because in the previous verse also we see Kapila Muni telling Vaikuntha Leela Vidhyanam. Vaikuntha Leela, all the different varieties of pastimes. So the yogi or the devotee, he fixes his mind on these things related to the Supreme Lord, and through this he will be able to control his unbridled mind, and therefore he is said to be the topmost yogi. And this process of Krishna consciousness, through all the whatever activities involved in it, the mind is somehow made to connect with Krishna. So therefore this Krishna consciousness process is the topmost yoga system. So with this I'll conclude. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.